Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis on current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper. Articles dated 4th of October 2021 are listed on your screen, and the timestamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article itself. So the first article for today's discussion was published on page 6 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the contemporary situation of food security in India and across the world. The writers of this article has clearly said that there is an alarming escalation in global hunger and it is unfolding now. Hence, we need to reach a goal of equitable livelihood as early as possible. Well, the article goes towards the important issue from the UPSC perspective, that is the food security. It also includes the relevance of hunger and the issue of malnutrition. Well, hunger and malnutrition has already been covered on the DNS dated 1st of October. Hence, you can watch that video to get more relevant update on hunger and all the possible dimensions on hunger related to the UPSC Civil Service examination. In today's discussion, we will put up the issues related to hunger and poverty, which is important for your General Studies paper 2, and important issues related to public distribution system and why the system is not able to provide the food security in India. Hence, the content for today's discussion will include United Nations Food System Summit, which held recently and was also part of this article. We will also look into the benefits and the limitations of bottom-up approach, which was suggested again in this article. We will also look into India's status on food insecurity, what government and other agencies including your NGOs and private sector has done in this regard, and lastly we will look into some of the way forwards which can help you to write an answer on food security in the mains examination when it comes to paper number 2 and paper number 3. So let's start with understanding what is food security. Well, as per Food and Agriculture Organization, food security means when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Let us understand this in simpler terms using India's own case. India's population is 1.4 billion people. Hence, what is the food security in this case? That all 1.4 billion people have access to food, both in terms of physical and economic access, means that they can buy the food whenever and wherever they want to. And not only just food, the food should be sufficient enough, it should be safe, that is, it should not be adulterated, and it should be nutritious. They should not focus on just one food item, that is rice or dal every day possible. They should have variety of food items including your vegetables, including chapatis, your coarse cereals, and of course fruits and milk. So if they are having the access to these kind of nutritious food whenever and wherever they want, this is known as food security as per Food and Agriculture Organization. Now the issue is, can India provide this definition into reality? The answer is no. Still, we have large number of people in the country who are going through food insecurity and leading a malnutritious life. The reason for this are stated above along with the important data and fact. But before that, let us venture into why food security is needed. The first and the foremost reason being that post-pandemic, that is post-COVID-19 crisis, there is a rise in severe hunger. Severe hunger here means that a person is not even able to get a single meal per day. There is rise in the food-led conflicts because if food is not there, people will come out on the street and will create civil war kind of conflicts. There is also a rise in the food crisis as far as South Asia and Africa is concerned, and this is one of the reasons why human development indices are going to be extremely poor this year whenever they are published. Next being your climate change has hit the production and productivity in the country. Why? Because of the extreme floods and drought combination has created the food insecurity. We have price fluctuation, the best example here being your onions and tomatoes. Why? Because these are two perishable goods which are in extreme demand and their productivity fluctuates with the market demand. And this is one of the reasons why government came up with Operation Green. We also have the issue of rising nutritional insecurity. Now, nutritional insecurity simply means that people are consuming more of a single crop or a single food item rather than diversifying their needs. We have monocropping culture, which means that the country is moving more towards a particular cereal or a particular crop. The best example here is wheat and rice. And the more nutritious coarse cereals like ragi, bajra, millets are now out of the picture. And the last one is that unsustainable use of land and water, which includes your pollution of water and urbanization of land. This also includes deforestation in order to bring more land under cultivation. That has itself caused issue of climate change. Now, after going through the needs, let us look into what is United Nations Food Systems Summit, which was organized recently. Now, when it comes to what, this is the first ever summit organized for food safety at a global level. This was organized under the United Nations General Assembly and it looks into the analysis of post-COVID food crisis across the globe. All these facts are important for your prelim examination for this year and even for the next year. This summit was recently organized in 23rd of September and it was organized in New York, United States. Now let us look into the aim of the summit. Well, the aim was to realize the vision of 2030 agenda of sustainable development goals, where we are thinking to bring down the hunger to zero. The purpose for organizing this summit was to strategize the actions for positive change in agri-food system. It means when agriculture and food delivery system become synchronized to each other and bring positive outcomes to the society in terms of reducing hunger and increasing the nutritional security. It is the basic purpose for organizing this summit. The outcome of the summit brought 5 tracks which should become into practice. The first one is to ensure access to safe and nutritious food, which we have already discussed in the definition of food security. Shifting to sustainable consumption patterns, which means stop wasting food. It also focuses on boost towards the nature positive production. Here the simple example is your organic farming. Then we have advanced equitable livelihood system where the best beneficiary would be the farmer. And the last one is building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks and stress. Here we need to provide mitigation and adaptation to the climate change activities on agriculture. Now, after discussing all these points, let us move towards the bottom-up approach, which this article is explicitly talking about. Authors or the writers have provided that bottom-up approach should be used in order to secure food safety and food security in India and abroad. Now, let us look into what are the benefits and what are the limitations of bottom-up approach as per this article and as per our understanding. The first benefit is that bottom-up approach provides decentralized participation. So every person in cities or urban towns will have their participation in the food security system. It will provide possibility of mass participation because when we are counting each and every person is also eligible to participate. It goes for target approach in the food distribution as well as food production system. So now we know that how many people are there in the country, including your rural areas, who are hunger. We will target them, we will provide them food wherever and whenever possible. We will provide the solutions to the hidden hunger, which includes the hunger related to micronutrients. It will also help us to include the vulnerable sections like scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, women, children and others. And last benefit is that it provides area specific policy making. Let's say there is an issue of hunger in northeast area, and if we are going up with bottom up approach, we will give chance to the rural people, to the urban people who are poor enough to make policies on their own and bring that policy to the larger level at a state and a national level so that that policy can turn into reality. Now let us look into some of the limitations of this bottom up approach. Your limitation include hardline politics because political agenda does not allow the grassroots level to make their own policies and implement them. It also includes the issues of financial resources because devolution of financial power to the lowest tier of the government has still not been materialized to the maximum level. It also goes for lack of awareness among the beneficiaries because people in the rural areas do not have the power to secure food security or ensure food security at their doorstep. We are also going through the over centralized administration where policy making are done at a highest possible level, that is the prime minister's office, and they are being delegated to the lower authorities. We have issues of hierarchy setup because the policies are made up at the top level, hence bringing bottom up approach becomes almost impossible. And the last one is lack of local accountability because panchayati raj institutions or the urban local bodies does not have this accountable mechanism where they can be held responsible for not providing food to the needy and the poor population in their locality. So, given this discussion on the bottom up approach, let us look into what is the current situation of food insecurity in India. Well, these are the important relevant facts which definitely you can use in your upcoming mains examination or in fact the next mains examination. The first one is that United Nations India office has clearly mentioned that about 195 million people in India are undernourished. That means they are not getting enough benefit of food security. As per the National Family Health Survey 4, 38% children below 5 are stunted, that is, they have lower growth, 21 are wasted, and 36% are underweight. It also says that over 15% are overweight, which means that about 60 to 70% of the children in this country are facing one or the other form of malnutrition. As per the Global Food Security Index, published by Economic Intelligence Unit in 2020, India ranked at 71st position when it comes to the food affordability, availability, quality and safety, which is a very, very poor state. In Global Hunger Index 2020, India has been ranked at 94th position, that is just 13 position above the worst case in the world. Even as per the Global Nutrition Report, India has one third of the world's stunted children, and that too in the absolute numbers. And lastly, as per Food and Agriculture Organization estimates, the state of food security and nutrition in the world report 2020. About 8% of India population suffered from moderate to severe food insecurity in 2014 and 16. However, this 8% has now rose to 31.6% in 2017 to 19, which is very alarming situation. So, all these data could be categorized and could be used in your means answer writing and in fact in your essay paper. Now let us look into what are the reasons behind existing food insecurity in India. Why India has food insecurity and why the number of children, women and men are going through the state of malnutrition. Let us look all these issues one by one. The first one being your urban population related. We have the issue of migration. So when a person who was working on the agriculture field moved to the urban town without any skills and employment, they are mostly subjected to the issue of non-availability of ration food. And this is one of the reasons why government has now provided one nation, one ration card solution. Then comes the affordability. The food prices in the urban areas are very high, and this is one of the reasons why it becomes unaffordable to the urban poor population. And then comes the access. Because urban areas are largely extended and the food provided by the authorities to the poor people could not reach them on time. And apart from that, there is the issue of urban corruption. When it comes to the children and the mothers, we have the issue of course, the universal issue and problem of poverty. We have lack of adequate knowledge to the mother. And this knowledge includes the knowledge of breastfeeding as well as knowledge of providing right nutrition to their children. And lastly, we have the issue of gender inequality, where women are not provided ample space to use or utilize their authority while making decisions in their homes. We have issues also in rural and tribal areas. It includes low productivity. Because of this, there is a low production altogether. The major issue lies in the states which are western in India, including your Gujarat and Rajasthan. We have lack of education and job opportunities. No jobs means no money, and no money means poverty, which ultimately leads to food insecurity. We have the issue of climate change, already discussed, and lastly, we have the issue of backwardness. Here, I would suggest you the cases of northeastern India, where lack of accessibility has not provided the enough food security to the people. Then we have the issue of unmonitored nutrition programs. Ineffective or inefficient implementation of programs like ICDS or in fact your Pradhan Mantri Poshan Abhiyan. We have lack of intersectoral coordination, including the coordination between your government agencies and the private sector or the NGOs, or in fact government or the NGOs. We have lack of coherence food and nutritious policies. So let us see, the food is concerned under public distribution system. However, PM Poshan Abhiyan is focusing on nutrition. One is looking at the quantity perspective, the other one is looking at the qualitative perspective. Hence, this difference has to be bridged. And the last one is your faulty food distribution system. It is inefficient, it is inclusive and as well as exclusive. There are some people who are getting enough food while there are others who are getting absolutely no items. It also provides a regional distribution as far as minimum support prices are concerned, where Northeast remains largely excluded. And the last one is a quality issue. The food items which are provided by the fair price shop are not meeting the international basic or the average food quality as far as nutrition is concerned. Hence, all these issues require a resolution in order to provide food security to India. So let us see what government has done and what other agencies have done. Well, as per Article 47 of the Indian Constitution, it is a duty because it is part of your directive principles of state policy. So it is a directive principle which makes it a duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living and to improve the public health. Hence, it could also be asked in the prelim examination that whether nutrition term is used in the constitution or not. Well, it is. The other programs include your National Food Security Act 2013, which has revamped the public distribution system. It has also provided extensive submission of food items to the poorest of the poor under Antyodaya Anna Yojana. It has recently revamped the midday meal program with PM Poshan. We also have integrated child development schemes, Annapurna schemes, and other schemes related to different sectors like your old age, maternity, and family benefits. When it comes to the other initiative, government is also promoting the organic farming, not only to provide food security but also to fight the climate change. Government such as Government of Delhi has started door-to-door delivery of ration. We have community kitchen programs such as Indira Rasoi in Rajasthan, and government is also providing cheaper ration to the NGOs and the religious denominations who can themselves provide community kitchen services to the poor. This was seen in the case of COVID-19 lockdown. Some of the other initiatives from the private and the NGOs include programs run by the World Food Program. We have Akshay Patra as an NGO. We have the Hunger Project at international level. We have World Central Kitchen, IGNA Foundation, Central Underground, and the Land Institute. You can quote these examples in your means answer writing just to add value to your answer. Now, given all these initiatives, it seems like government is doing a lot to reduce the poverty. But still we are having so high level of food insecurity in India. So, the point is, what should we do? Well, we can do the following. We can implement measures to improve agriculture productivity and food storage. Well, food storage here requires the most important attention as of now, because as per Food and Agriculture Organization and your World Health Organization, 1/5 to 1/4 of India's food get wasted because of lack of food storage system or recycling. Then we require better accessibility to the below poverty line. This was seen during the case of COVID crisis because poor were not able to get food item at cheaper rate at their doorstep, given the kind of migration they were going through. We also required to enhance the employment because employment generation can solve thousands of other problems faced by poor and the malnutrition population. We require crop diversification, establishing food grain banks by even the private sector, promoting household gardening. This is the best example of bottom-up approach. We also need to enhance the community awareness programs and social marketing. We require better monitoring and timely evaluation of the nutritional programs, including your PM Poshan and ICDS. Community participation is important and intersectoral coordination is also important. And lastly, we need to address the rising cost of nutritional diets. The best example I would quote here is again your Operation Green and the promotion to decentralized marketing and storage. Hence, given the decentralized marketing and storage, government will be able to procure the food product at a local market and be able to sell those products in the local market itself in order to ensure the food security. So, given the entire discussion which we have done by now, I leave you with this question and expect that you can understand this question easily using the entire discussion which we have done. What you need to do, start your introduction by defining what is food security, then analyze all the causes which we have discussed regarding the food insecurity in India, and provide some of the measures, both government, private NGOs and other measures which we have discussed in this format. With this question in place, now I'll leave you with an important MCQ attached to this article. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. So now let us come to the second article for the day. This article got published on page 4 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and brings us to an important place in the Indian history as far as ancient history is concerned. Well, this article was published with a connection of the upcoming elections in the local bodies of Tamil Nadu. This article is relevant for us from the perspective of your prelims as well as mains examination when it comes to the important dynasties and their contribution. Well, the article talks about nothing but some of the inscriptions, and inscription here means two inscriptions. One is Uthira Merur and the second one is Thaneri. So, as far as UPSC is concerned, we will look into these two inscriptions, their details and where they were located. The inscriptions of Uthira Merur. It talks about Kudavulai, a system to elect members to an annual committee known as Varyam. Well, these two words are extremely important for your prelim examination. Among these committee, it talked about the garden committee, tent committee and other committees of 30 ward. Well, ward were the small areas which were governed by the ward members, and the same method is used in the local body elections in the contemporary period. And the same is used in the contemporary period and the elections related to it. The second one is known as Thaneri inscription. It lays down the qualification for the candidate to village administrative committees, and these committees were known as Perumbukuri Sabai. It also sheds some of the light on how the farm produced was taxed. So it talks about taxation and it talks about the candidates and their qualification. So both these inscriptions actually tells us that in the ancient history there was a system of local self-government where people got elected on the basis of some qualification, and these qualifications were hard line drawn for each and every sections and village in that empire. So the inscriptions of Thaneri were actually constructed during the period of Sambian Mahadevi. Now who was she? She was the grandmother of Chola king Raj Raja, and this inscription was created in the memory of her son Uttama Chol. So the Thaneri inscription by the article means that it belonged to the Chola Empire. However, Uttira Merur inscription was belonging to a period which is predecessor to the Chola Empire and related to the Pallava rulers. Now, a curious mind in the UPSC will say that where these places are located. So, let us look into a map. The first map shows us the area of Pallava rulers, where we will find that a place known as Kanchi, or currently the Kanchipuram. This is the district where we have Uttira Merur inscription. The second one is your Chola rule. However, in this Kanchi is not given, but the entire region shows the Chola Empire, because Chola Empire was responsible for the second inscription, that is the Thaneri inscription. However, this inscription also belonged to the same Kanchi district. So both the inscriptions were located in Kanchi district, but they were made during different period. This was constructed first and this was constructed later on. However, the theme of both the inscription remains the same: details on the local self-government. Another important thing which you should remember as far as history is concerned, that Chola Empire under Rajendra Chol was expanded later to include your eastern India, northeastern part and other southeastern states, and of course your Sri Lanka. So, given this discussion in place, let us now move to the important prelims practice question attached to this article. So, read both these questions and answer in the comment box. This would be your question number 2 and this would be your question number 3. So, you can answer taking the numbers of this question. Let us now move to the next article for the day. So the next article in today's discussion was published on page 7 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This article actually talks about the recent proposal to bring Nord Stream 2 into reality. Well, the work has already started and majority of the section has already been completed in this gas pipeline which will run between Russia and Germany. Now the point is how this pipeline is going to define the international relations and what this pipeline is all about. The article says that consensus has already been reached in order to complete the Nord Stream 2 in Europe, and this is going to benefit many European nations. So as far as UPSC examination is concerned, from prelims perspective, this article is important from the perspective of places in news and important international events, because last year UPSC has already asked questions on West Texas. Well, this was in news for the international fluctuation in the oil prices, as this could also be asked by the UPSC maybe this year or maybe the next year. As far as means is concerned, well, it is important for your general studies paper 2 in international relations, where you can quote these kind of instances to make your argument more stronger. The content for this article include what is Nord Stream 2, some important background and important facts, issues and controversies attached to Nord Stream 2, and some prelims questions. So let us start with the basic discussion on the background. Well, after 2008 economic crisis, European nations and the European Union could not bring back the high economic growth. And one of the most important reason was the fall in the natural resources, including your gas. And this is one of the reason why this gas prices have broken record this year. It is as high as $1,000 per 1,000 cubic meter, which is not suitable as a supply of resources for your industrial growth. And as the price of resources are higher, it will impact the entire supply chain in European industries. So what they have done, they have signed an agreement to get gas supply from Russia, as Russia is one of the top gas producers in the world. So what they have done, they have now started to bring Nord Stream 2. Now the question is why it is 2? Where is the 1? Well, the Nord Stream 1 is already under practice and it is already transferring a lot of gas from Russia to the European nation. The Nord Stream 2 will run from Ust-Luga in Russia and Greifswald in Germany, and it will go through the Baltic Sea. So no land gas pipeline will be established. It is a 1200 kilometer gas pipeline and it was basically conceptualized in 2015. However, there were certain issues which were there, which we will discuss very shortly. The first pipeline, Nord Stream 1, is already supplying the gas from Russia to the European nation. Now the question is why there is a need to supply gas pipelines. The first is that there is lack of viable alternatives to the gas. Gas is less polluting, it is easy to transfer and store, hence it has number of other benefits too. The possibility of severe winter also provide an ample avenues for the gas transportation. And lastly, COVID-19 crisis has led to the economic recession across the Europe. And this is one of the reasons why European nations are looking for alternatives altogether as far as their energy need is required. Let us look into some of the issues and the controversies attached to this. The first one is trust deficit between USA and Russia. As we know that European Union has been very close friend to the United States of America, including your partnerships of defense under NATO. Now, USA has been very vocal when it comes to the Russian participation in Eastern or the Western Europe. And US under the Donald Trump regime has clearly mentioned that USA will not tolerate Russia's interference in the economy of Europe. However, under the current President Joe Biden, there is a change in the instance of the US. Now, USA is saying that as far as Russia is not creating any security issues in the Eastern Europe, Russia would be allowed to provide the supply of gas to the European countries. Now, this has come as a waiver. Why? Because now USA, despite Russia supplying the gas to the European nation, will not impose any sort of sanctions on the Russian supply chain. And this change in position has also seen as the interference of Russia into deeper politics of the Western Europe. And ultimately, it is seen as the increasing dominance of Russia over the European Union. And this dominance will also lead to the increasing dependence as far as energy is concerned by the European Union on Russia. As far as now, Russia supplies almost 40% of the energy needs of the Europe. So if in future Russia denies to supply this 40% of the energy needs to the European Union, the countries will perish into recession. And now, the fourth point is that the Ukraine was a major bone of contention between Russia and USA. Now, this pipeline is not passing from the Ukraine, hence Russia is not liable to pay any kind of compensation or royalty to the Ukraine. Ukraine is also seeing the stance of United States as a deliberate move to dilute the hard-line position which USA was holding in the European Union, and allowing Russia to supply more energy needs to the European Union. USA will ultimately make a pathway for a complete entry of Russia into the geopolitics of European Union, and ultimately it will reduce the Ukraine's position on Crimean Peninsula and its legitimate claim. So given this discussion in place, let us look into where this pipeline is situated. So this is your Russia, this is the place known as Usluga, and this is the green pipeline which you are seeing is your Nord Stream 2. The yellow pipeline is already functioning as Nord Stream 1, which is situated in Vyborg in Russia and again Turgraswald in Germany. And this is your Baltic Sea. So as far as map is concerned, you should remember these two places, the Baltic Sea and Greifswald in Germany. Given this discussion in place, let us look into the important question attached to this article. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. So now we come to the last article for the day. This article was published on page 5 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the recent initiative taken by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research with their laboratory at National Geophysical Research Institute. Now what they have done? They have launched an environmental seismology to develop landslide and flood early warning system. Now, if you are reading on disaster management and geography, you are well aware of what is early warning system. Now, this system provides an early information, a preemptive information to the people around a particular area so that they can take time to save their lives and property. Now, this early warning system will provide all the relevant information on landslides in India. And this early warning system will provide real-time monitoring of places which are situated in and around Himalayan region and are prone to landslide. Well, as Himalayas are called as young mountains, they are very prone to the landslide activity all across the year. We have seen many cases recently in the states of Uttarakhand as well. Hence, this topic becomes relevant for a prelims section for your landslides and the important geological events attached to it. From mains perspective, it is important for your general studies paper 1 under the heading or the last heading of the syllabus in GS paper 1 as geophysical phenomena, and in GS paper 3 this is also important as far as disaster management is concerned. So the topic for today's discussion will revolve around the basic revision from the NCERT and basic guidelines. It will include your types of landslide, causes to landslide, areas which are prone to landslides in India, the basic impact of landslides on socio-economy and geology of India, and lastly we will look into some of the guidelines provided by National Disaster Management Authority on the landslides. So let's start this. The types of landslides include falls, creep, debris flow, mud flow, and the flow. This basic division is based on the composition, speed of the movement of the material, and the slope of a particular land. The first one includes the abrupt movement. Fall means abrupt movement of material that becomes detached from the steep slopes or cliff moving by free fall. So as we have discussed, the composition is based on the slope material of the important landslides. The second one is creep, which is creep itself means slow motion, and it includes the slow motion down the slope of soil or rock. Then we have debris flow. It includes rapid mass movement but does not include fall. It is nothing but a flow of slurry material which includes water, rock, soil and organic material. Then we have mud flow. Mud here simply means higher moisture in the soil, and it is a rapidly flowing mass of wet material. However, it is not a clear sign of water flowing down the slope. It consists 50% of sand, silt, clay sized particles. And lastly, we have flows. It is nothing but a mass movement. So it may or may not be a type of landslide. It may be slow, it may be fast. When it comes to the causes of landslide, it includes 4 different type of basic background causes. First one is geological causes, where humans have no interference. This includes the causes such as weak, sensitive or weathered material, because if the material is not weathered, if the mountain consists hard rocks, they will not be subjected to landslide. But if they are weak, sensitive and weathered, they will be prone to the landslides. Then we have morphological causes, which includes your tectonic movements, erosions, depositions or removal of the vegetation. When it comes to the physical causes, it includes your intensive rainfall, and this is the most important reason of landslides in Himalaya these days. Because of the climate change, what we are observing is that there is a high degree of rainfall instead of the snowfall in the Himalayan region. And this has led to the flood-like situations in the hilly areas of Himalayas. Apart from this, we are also subjected to the earthquake and the volcanic eruptions and the rapid snow melting. It also includes your cloud burst activity. And lastly, we have human causes, which includes your excavation activities on the slope of the hill areas. We have high level of developmental activities, including your deforestation, mining, irrigation, your development of reservoirs, including your large dams, which have caused a tectonic shift in the ecological system of the Himalayan region. So considering these types and causes of the landslide, what we are observing is that India has very defined areas of landslides in the country. The areas subjected to landslides in India include your Himalayan region, your northeastern region and Western Ghats. Some of the areas in very small proportion is also found in the Eastern Ghats. Well, as per the Geological Survey of India, about 12.6% of the land area in India is prone to landslide. However, it is not the fact that this 12.6 will always face the issue of landslide. Areas which are prone to high degree of landslides and frequency includes your Western Ghats, Konkan Hills in the states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Goa and Maharashtra. As you can see in this map, these are those areas. Then we have Eastern Ghats, where Araku Valley is important, as we have discussed. On northeastern Himalayas, we have Darjeeling and Sikkim. This one is your Darjeeling Himalayas, this one is your Sikkim Himalayas, and lastly we have northwest Himalayas, including the states like Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. All these regions are prone to landslides, but does not mean that they will face the landslides on annual basis. But high degree of rainfall will make all of them very vulnerable to the landslides. Now we come to the impact of landslides. Well, impact of landslides can be divided into two, your short run and long run impact. Short run will include damage to the property, loss of life to human and animal, destruction of agricultural fields, damage to the vegetation and obstruction to the vehicular movement, especially in your Western Ghats. We also have issues of temporary loss of livelihood to the poor people who were dependent on the forest activity on the slope of the mountain. The best example could be the cultivation of tea plantation. In long run, we have issues like increase of the sedimentation load in the river, which actually leads to the deposition of sediments and causes floods. We have the issue of reducing the effective life of hydroelectric and multi-purpose projects because of the enormous amount of sedimentation. There is loss of cultivation land on the slopes of the hill as well as on the valley part where the siltation deposits. We have environmental impact on the erosion and the soil loss because the top soil is considered to be the best in terms of fertility. We have demographic impact in terms of relocation of the population. This is often seen in the state of Kerala. And lastly, there is a frequent disruption of the transportation network because once this siltation or once this mud falls on the highways, that will restrict the movement and will also impact the economical development of a particular region. Let us now look into the important guidelines given by the National Disaster Management Authority on the landslide disaster management. The first one being your landslide hazard, vulnerability and risk assessment. Why it is required? It is required to delineate the vulnerable areas. It will provide the basic data set on which policies can be formulated. Then we have early warning systems for landslides to have preemptive planning and mitigation efforts. We also need to go into investigation of landslide risk assessment because if we do not go for the investigation, we will not get any idea about why and when the next landslide is going to occur. Then we have to go for landslide risk mitigation and remediation process, which includes restricting development including dam and other economical development, laying down basic standards for excavation and construction activity because see, absolute restrictions is not permissible for a developing countries like India. So we can go for the development in the hilly areas but with a caution. We need to protect the existing development from the impact of landslides, and lastly we should have landslide insurance and compensation to the people who have lost their lives or property. The guidelines also talk about regulating and enforcement activity, including your technological led framework. We should also go for awareness and preparedness to the people who are living in and around the hilly areas. We should also go for capacity building because this is the most integral part of decentralized approach. And local people who are going through the capacity building can help in better rescue operations whenever a landslide occurs. Then the guidelines talks about the immediate response and talks about the standard operating procedure. This will reduce the time of rescue operation and can save life in the emergency situation. And lastly, like many other guidelines of the NDMA, we should focus on research and development as far as landslides in the country is concerned. So given this revision topic, now I will take you to the important question of the day. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. As far as answer to yesterday's question is concerned, it is your option A because charm dance is not part of Sikkim. It is mostly practiced in the Ladakh region of India. With this discussion in place, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.